Have you ever wondered why two people can be the same age on paper, yet one seems energetic, mentally sharp, and physically active, while the other struggles with fatigue, stiffness, and declining health? For decades, scientists believed aging was simply the unavoidable passage of time. Every birthday meant another step towards slower metabolism, weaker muscles, and increased risk of chronic illness. But over the last 20 years, research has revealed something remarkable. Many of the biological processes associated with aging appear to respond to everyday lifestyle choices much faster than most people realize, not in decades, sometimes in weeks. And in certain cases, measurable changes inside the body have been observed after only several days of healthier eating, better sleep, regular movement, and improved metabolic health. That doesn't mean anyone can stop aging. It certainly doesn't mean growing older can be undone in a week. But evidence increasingly suggests that some of the biological pathways linked with healthy aging can begin responding surprisingly quickly. And that's where today's story becomes fascinating, because 1 week may be enough to start changing the direction your body is moving. Not through expensive supplements, not through extreme diets, and not through miracle claims. Instead, through habits supported by growing scientific evidence. By the end of this video, you'll understand why researchers are paying closer attention to inflammation, blood vessels, metabolism, immune function, and one often overlooked system that influences nearly every organ in the body. The most surprising part? Many of these changes begin long before you notice them in the mirror. They start deep inside your cells. When most people think about aging, they picture wrinkles, gray hair, aching joints, or declining energy. But scientists see something entirely different. They see trillions of tiny biological processes happening every second. Every heartbeat delivers oxygen. Every meal provides information to your metabolism. Every night of sleep allows repair mechanisms to switch on. Every walk, every healthy choice, and every hour of quality rest sends signals throughout the body. Aging, according to many researchers, isn't controlled by just one clock. It's influenced by many interconnected systems. Your immune system, your circulatory system, your metabolism, your muscles, your gut microbiome, your brain, and perhaps most importantly, how well these systems continue communicating with one another over time. This is one reason experts like Dr. William Li often emphasize supporting the body's natural defense and repair systems rather than chasing shortcuts. Researchers have observed that many chronic conditions associated with aging share common biological patterns: persistent low-grade inflammation, reduced blood vessel function, poor metabolic flexibility, loss of muscle mass, declining cellular repair. Fortunately, these same systems also appear capable of positive adaptation, and this is where many people underestimate the body's remarkable ability to respond. Imagine turning a large ship in the ocean. The direction changes first. The destination changes later. Your body often works the same way. The visible results may take months, but the biological direction may begin changing much sooner. However, that's not the most interesting part. Scientists have discovered that one of the earliest improvements may have nothing to do with appearance. It may begin with your blood vessels. Healthy blood vessels are far more than simple pipes carrying blood. They actively regulate circulation, oxygen delivery, nutrient transport, temperature control, and communication between organs. Lining every blood vessel is a thin layer of cells called the endothelium. When functioning well, this lining helps blood flow efficiently throughout the body. When damaged over many years by smoking, poor diet, physical inactivity, chronically elevated blood sugar, or uncontrolled blood pressure, circulation gradually becomes less efficient. Research indicates that endothelial function is closely associated with cardiovascular health and healthy aging. What's encouraging is that studies suggest lifestyle changes may begin supporting endothelial function surprisingly quickly. One important reason involves nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a molecule your body naturally produces. It helps blood vessels relax, allowing blood to flow more freely. Regular physical activity, vegetables rich in natural nitrates, and diets emphasizing whole foods have all been associated with supporting this important pathway. And here's something many people never hear. Blood vessels aren't simply responding to exercise, they're learning from it. Every brisk walk creates gentle increases in blood flow. Those increases produce tiny amounts of healthy mechanical stress. In response, the lining of blood vessels adapts. Researchers sometimes describe this as exercise acting almost like education for your cardiovascular system. The body receives the message: improve circulation, strengthen function, become more efficient. The benefits accumulate over time, yet the real discovery came years later. Scientists realized that blood vessels influence much more than heart health. Healthy circulation supports brain function, muscle recovery, kidney health, skin health, even immune activity. One system quietly affects almost every other. Which brings us to another surprising discovery. Many people assume aging begins with wrinkles. Researchers increasingly believe chronic inflammation plays a much larger role. Now, inflammation itself isn't the enemy. Without it, cuts wouldn't heal, infections would become life-threatening, your immune system couldn't protect you. The problem isn't short-term inflammation, it's inflammation that quietly lingers month after month and year after year. Scientists sometimes refer to this persistent, low-level immune activation as one of the hallmarks of aging. Unlike the dramatic swelling after an injury, this process often goes unnoticed, yet evidence suggests it may influence blood vessels, joints, metabolism, brain health, and many other tissues over time. So what contributes to it? Multiple factors appear to play a role: poor sleep, highly processed dietary patterns, excess visceral fat, smoking, chronic psychological stress, physical inactivity, repeated spikes in blood sugar. The encouraging news is that research suggests these influences are also modifiable. This doesn't happen overnight, but improvements can begin sooner than many expect. For example, replacing ultra-processed foods with meals centered on vegetables, legumes, fruit, nuts, fish, and other minimally processed foods provides the body with thousands of naturally occurring compounds. Some support antioxidant defenses. Others nourish beneficial gut microbes. Some appear to help regulate immune activity. Dr. William Li has often highlighted the fascinating relationship between food and the body's own protective systems. Rather than thinking only about calories, researchers increasingly study how foods interact with immunity, blood vessels, metabolism, and tissue repair. That represents a major shift in nutritional science. Food isn't simply fuel, it's also biological information. Every meal sends signals. Some encourage resilience, others place additional stress on the body's systems. And this is where the story takes another unexpected turn. One of the fastest responding organs may not be your heart, it may be your gut. Inside your digestive tract live trillions of microorganisms collectively known as the gut microbiome. Although invisible, this community influences digestion, immune function, vitamin production, metabolism, and even communication with the brain. Scientists continue uncovering new connections almost every year. Perhaps the most remarkable finding is how responsive these microbes appear to be. Research suggests dietary changes may begin altering microbial activity within days. Think about that for a moment. For years, many assumed the microbiome remained relatively fixed. Instead, scientists observed that it behaves more like a dynamic ecosystem. Feed it differently, and the ecosystem begins adapting. Fiber-rich foods become especially important here. Vegetables, beans, lentils, whole grains, fruit, nuts, seeds. These foods provide nourishment not only for you, but also for beneficial microbes that produce compounds called short-chain fatty acids. Evidence indicates these compounds may support the intestinal barrier, influence immune regulation, and contribute to metabolic health. However, that's still only part of the picture. The gut also communicates with the brain through what researchers call the gut-brain axis. This communication network involves nerves, hormones, immune signals, and microbial metabolites. Scientists have observed associations between gut health and mood, cognitive performance, stress responses, and overall well being. While many questions remain under investigation, the connection appears stronger than researchers once imagined, which raises an interesting question. If your gut can influence your brain and your diet influences your gut, could your daily meals affect far more than hunger? Evidence increasingly suggests the answer is yes. But perhaps the greatest misconception surrounding aging involves metabolism. Many adults believe that after 40 or 50, a slowing metabolism makes healthy aging nearly impossible. The reality appears far more nuanced. Large studies suggest resting metabolic rate changes less dramatically through much of adulthood than many people assume. Instead, researchers point toward changes in muscle mass, activity levels, dietary habits, sleep, and hormonal shifts as important contributors to gradual weight gain and declining metabolic health. In other words, metabolism is influenced by many factors, not just age alone. That distinction matters because it changes the conversation from inevitability to opportunity. One of the most powerful ways to support metabolic health is also one of the simplest: preserving muscle. Muscle does far more than move the body. It acts as a major site for glucose uptake, helping regulate blood sugar after meals. It supports balance, mobility, and independence. It contributes to bone health, and it produces signaling molecules called myokines that communicate with other organs throughout the body. Researchers have found that even modest resistance exercise can begin stimulating pathways involved in muscle adaptation within days. The visible changes may take weeks or months, but beneath the surface, the body is already responding. Proteins are being synthesized, cells are adapting, nerves are becoming more efficient. Strength begins before size. And that understanding changes everything, because healthy aging isn't built from dramatic transformations. It's built from countless invisible improvements that gradually become visible over time. One healthier meal, one evening of quality sleep, one brisk walk, one strength training session, one decision repeated often enough to become part of who you are. The remarkable part is that your body notices those decisions almost immediately, even when you don't. And in the next part, we'll explore why sleep may be one of the most underestimated longevity tools, how movement influences the brain as much as the muscles, and why some of the most powerful habits for healthy aging require far less effort than most people imagine. If there is one habit that quietly influences nearly every system we've discussed, it isn't a supplement, a special diet, or a cutting-edge technology. It's sleep. Most people think of sleep as simply a time when the brain turns off and the body rests. But researchers have discovered something far more remarkable. During sleep, the body becomes extraordinarily active behind the scenes. Hormones are carefully regulated. Memories are strengthened. Immune cells coordinate their responses. Muscles begin repairing microscopic damage from the day. And the brain activates one of its most fascinating maintenance systems. Scientists call it the glymphatic system. Think of it as a nighttime housekeeping crew. During deep sleep, this system helps move fluid through the brain, supporting the removal of metabolic waste products that naturally accumulate while we're awake. Although researchers are still exploring exactly how this process relates to long-term brain health, evidence suggests that consistent, high-quality sleep plays an important role in maintaining cognitive function as we age. This is why one poor night's sleep can leave you feeling mentally sluggish, emotionally reactive, and physically drained. Fortunately, the opposite also appears to be true. When sleep becomes more consistent, people often notice improvements that extend far beyond feeling rested. Better concentration, more stable energy, improved decision making, better appetite regulation, more effective recovery after exercise. And researchers believe much of this begins because sleep helps coordinate communication between nearly every major biological system. However, that's not the most interesting part. Sleep also influences something many people rarely connect to aging: blood sugar regulation. Studies have found that even short periods of insufficient sleep may reduce insulin sensitivity, making it more difficult for the body to manage glucose efficiently. Over time, consistently poor sleep has been associated with an increased risk of several chronic health conditions. This doesn't mean one restless night determines your future. It means your nightly routine is one more opportunity to support the systems that help you stay healthy over the long term. Sometimes the most powerful changes don't happen because we do more, they happen because we consistently recover better. And recovery brings us to another discovery that continues to reshape how scientists think about aging. For many years, exercise was viewed primarily as a way to burn calories. Today, researchers increasingly describe it as a biological signal. Every time your muscles contract, they release chemical messengers that travel throughout the body. These signaling molecules help coordinate communication with the immune system, the liver, fat tissue, blood vessels, and even the brain. In other words, movement is a conversation. Your muscles aren't simply doing work, they're sending information. This helps explain why regular physical activity has been associated with benefits extending far beyond fitness alone. Evidence suggests it may support cardiovascular health, metabolic function, mood, sleep quality, balance, mobility, and cognitive performance. Yet one common misconception continues to discourage many adults. They believe exercise only counts if it's intense. Research tells a more encouraging story. Walking remains one of the most studied forms of physical activity in the world. Regular brisk walking has been associated with improved cardiovascular health, better blood sugar regulation, and greater overall physical function. It places relatively little stress on the joints compared with many high-impact activities, making it accessible for a wide range of people. And here's where the story takes another unexpected turn. Walking doesn't only benefit the body, it also benefits the brain. Scientists have observed that regular aerobic activity may support blood flow to brain tissue and encourage the release of proteins involved in maintaining healthy nerve connections. One of these proteins, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, is often described as supporting the brain's ability to adapt and learn. You can think of it as helping create an environment where the brain remains more adaptable. While researchers continue studying exactly how these processes influence healthy aging, the overall pattern remains remarkably consistent. Movement supports the brain. The brain supports healthier choices. Healthier choices encourage more movement. It's a positive cycle that builds over time. However, movement alone is only one piece of the equation. Nutrition provides the building materials. One of the biggest changes in nutrition science over the past decade is a shift away from focusing on individual quote-unquote superfoods. Instead, researchers increasingly examine overall dietary patterns. Why? Because foods rarely work in isolation. A meal containing vegetables, healthy fats, legumes, whole grains, and lean protein creates thousands of interactions inside the body that cannot be explained by a single vitamin or nutrient. This broader perspective helps explain why dietary patterns, such as the Mediterranean-style diet, continue to receive attention in longevity research. Rather than eliminating entire food groups or promising dramatic transformations, this approach emphasizes variety, minimally processed foods, healthy fats like olive oil, regular consumption of vegetables and fruits, legumes, nuts, fish, and moderate portions. Evidence suggests that this pattern is associated with better cardiovascular health, healthier metabolic function, and reduced risk of several chronic diseases. Notice the wording, associated with, not guaranteed, because biology is complex. Genetics matter. Environment matters. Stress matters. Access to healthy food matters. No single eating pattern produces identical results for everyone. Yet researchers consistently observe that dietary quality plays an important role in supporting healthy aging. And perhaps one of the simplest principles is this: Eat more foods that nature would still recognize. The less processing required, the more likely those foods retain the natural structures, fiber, and nutrients that evolved alongside human biology. That doesn't require perfection, it requires consistency. And consistency leads us to another fascinating concept. Researchers often describe aging as the gradual accumulation of small changes. If that's true, healthy aging may also result from the accumulation of small improvements. Imagine adding just one positive habit every week. This week, you begin walking 20 minutes each day. Next week, you include vegetables with lunch and dinner. The following week, you aim for a consistent bedtime. Then you begin strength training twice each week. Then you reduce sugary drinks. None of these choices transforms your health overnight, but together they begin influencing multiple biological systems at once: blood vessels, muscles, sleep, immune function, metabolism, brain health, gut microbes. Each system supports the others. This interconnectedness may be one of the most hopeful discoveries in modern preventive health, because improving one area often creates positive effects elsewhere. Better sleep encourages healthier food choices. Healthier food supports the gut microbiome. A healthier microbiome may influence energy levels. More energy makes physical activity easier. Exercise improves sleep. The cycle reinforces itself. Yet the real discovery may be psychological rather than biological. Many people believe they need extraordinary motivation to change. Behavioral scientists increasingly suggest something different. Environment often shapes behavior more than willpower alone. Keeping fruit visible on the kitchen counter, preparing healthy meals in advance, walking with a friend, scheduling exercise like an appointment, reducing late-night screen exposure before bed. Each of these changes makes healthy decisions slightly easier. Over months and years, those small advantages compound. Just as interest compounds in a savings account, healthy habits appear to accumulate benefits over time. That's one reason longevity researchers often focus less on dramatic interventions and more on sustainable routines, because the body responds to what happens repeatedly, not occasionally. However, there is one final misconception worth addressing. Many people think healthy aging is only about adding years to life. Researchers increasingly emphasize another goal: adding life to those years. Living longer matters. Living well matters even more. Maintaining independence, keeping a curious mind, enjoying time with family, walking without pain, traveling, learning, laughing, remaining engaged with life. These are outcomes that matter deeply to people, and many of the habits we've discussed are associated with supporting those goals. Of course, no lifestyle plan can eliminate every health risk. Aging is influenced by genetics, medical conditions, environmental exposures, and factors beyond our control. That's why regular medical care, appropriate screenings, vaccinations, and personalized advice from qualified healthcare professionals remain essential parts of healthy aging. But within that larger picture, everyday choices still matter. Research continues to reveal that our bodies are not passive observers of time. They are dynamic systems that continually respond to how we eat, move, sleep, recover, and manage stress. The remarkable part is that these responses begin long before we notice dramatic external changes. Inside your muscles, new proteins are being built. Inside your blood vessels, function may improve. Inside your gut, microbial communities adapt. Inside your brain, new connections continue forming. Inside your immune system, countless signals are constantly being adjusted. Your body is listening. Every day, every meal, every walk, every night of sleep, every choice sends a message. Perhaps that's the most empowering lesson modern science has given us. Healthy aging isn't about chasing perfection. It's about giving your body the conditions it needs to do what it has evolved to do: repair, adapt, and maintain itself as effectively as possible. One week may not transform your appearance. It won't stop the passage of time, but it may begin changing the biological direction you're heading. And when those small improvements are repeated for months and years, they can become something much greater than individual habits. They become a lifestyle that supports resilience, vitality, and independence throughout the decades ahead. The decisions we make today may seem small, but over years and decades, those choices can shape how we age, how we feel, and how long we remain active and healthy. That's why understanding the science matters. If there's one message to remember, let it be this: healthy aging is rarely the result of one extraordinary decision. More often, it is the outcome of ordinary choices made consistently: one meal, one walk, one night's sleep, and one day at a time. vidIQ.